Shalom, shalom, Miss Parker. I allow that your day is going well, that you're enjoying the beautiful weather. Even here in Canada, we have some tremendous weather going on right now. We're truly enjoying it. We allow that you're having the same weather. And we thank Yahuwah for the day that we have, even if it's not warm. We still thank Yahuwah for what we have because he alone is worthy to be praised. I want to make sure that I'm clear on what it is I'm going to demonstrate through Scripture. A lot of things that has been misinterpreted or not even looked at because they've been taught by Constantine in the Gentile teachings, which is really, really sad. Because again, we are not to be taught by Gentiles. We are to be taught by Yahudim, who we are. And that is so important to know that because they're not qualified, because they don't understand the reality of what Scripture is really articulating. So it is very important for us to know this. And so what I want to do is show how in the times that the temple was rent, the temple veil, was rent. And the time was the 9th hour or 3 p.m. In the time of the impalement of YAHUSHA was also at the 9th hour or 3 p.m. Very significant to know this because there's a very important demonstration as to why this is so beautiful and why it is so loving and why it is so great to have this understanding of what's going on and what's being articulated clearly through Scripture from the Abri understanding. We want to look at the times and the date and when the temple veil was rent, it was also recorded by 3 people. Matthew, you can find that in 27 verse 51. You can also find it in Mark 15 verse 38. And you can find it in Luke 23 verse 45. So they all have the account of the temple being rent. And why is this so important? And why is the time significant to know this and to tie things together, which could not be tied together again, as I have said, because it's been taught by Constantine, and he sanitized the assembly of anything having to do with the Yahudim. And that is also important. This is why you see J-U-S-U-S in Scripture, G-O-D and L-O-R-D. This is why you see that they have been replaced because they've taken out the name of Yahusha 7,000 times and replaced it with those pagan names, and one is a demon. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now, there's Acts 14:14. It was Paul and Barnabas who rent their clothes, and there's several scriptures that also refers to the top ones, or what they call disciples, rent their clothes, and it was due to either death or extreme grief. And this is why they rent their clothes, and it's very important to understand that, because there's a reason for why the temple veil was rent as well. It all ties together. This was a phenomenon that took place in Yasharal for these events, for the extreme grief that took place even unto death. And so what is the time? Well, the time, let me get back to Acts 14:14. They rent their clothes because people wanted to make GODs of them. And it was so burdensome to them that they rent their clothes because they knew that they could not be as Yahusha. And so to them, it was extremely deeply disrespectful and blasphemous for that to be said. And so they rent their clothes in deep grief because of what they tried to do. Now there are some preachers today, they'd take that. They would take that and run with it. They want to be lifted up. They want to be exalted. They're just like the Pharisees. There's no difference with these preachers today, Creflo Dollar, T.D. Jakes or T.D. Snake, and that smiling pastor, and there's a multitude more, Kenneth Copeland and the rest. But anyways, getting back to this, I kind of got off subject. I'm sorry for my little rant, but we want to tie the times together, and why the times together are so important. They are important because without doing that, you would not understand the reality of what the scriptures was really trying to tie together and say. And this is why we need to be able to study the scriptures to show ourselves approved, as it says in 2 Timothy 2:15, unto Yahuwah, rightly dividing the word of truth and not being ashamed because we have done what Yahuwah has asked us. And so again, never take my word for what it is that I'm saying, please. Always research what I've said. Don't take for granted that what I'm saying is truthful. I could be lying as well. I could be twisting scriptures, as so many has done. And so always make sure that you do your own research as well and come up with the conclusion that you come up with. But doing it in the context of scripture, that is so important. Most times people take scriptures out of context, so they'll say, that's your interpretation. No, the scripture makes it perfectly clear that it interprets itself, and there's no room for anybody else to come out and to demonstrate anything other than what the scriptures are saying in context. So let's look at the times that the veil was rent and that Yahusha gave up his rook. We'll find that the veil was rent at the 9th hour, or 3 p.m. We'll also remind you that the Yahusha gave up his rook at the 9th hour, or 3 p.m. Why is that so significant? Well, the significance is again, when you look at Acts 14:14, when Paul or Shaul gave in Barnabas or Barnabas gave up their robes, was because of the extreme grief that they wanted, that the people wanted to elevate them as higher than Yahuwah, and they just could not bear that. So because they followed the Yahuwah and loved him, they didn't want to be elevated like that. So the times and the significance of the times, and I'm going to go through this quickly. And I allow that you research this again and make sure that what I'm saying is true, so that if you are following me, you're following me because I am giving you truth and I'm not giving you opinions at all. Okay, so Yahusha gave up the rook at the 9th hour, excuse me, or 3 p.m. The temple veil was rent at the 9th hour, or 3 p.m. Why is that so important? If you reflect back to Acts 14:14 and Paul, and there's multitudes more of those Yehudims who have rent their clothes over the same scenarios, over death and extreme grief. Why is this important? Well, let the scriptures explain this. When the temple again was rent, the temple veil was rent from top to bottom, in that Yahusha gave up his rook at the 9th hour. To put this together would be to say that Yahuwah, when he rent the temple from top to bottom, he rent the temple, the veil, because he had grief over the loss and the death of his only begotten son. He showed sympathy, empathy for the loss of his son. And so we can understand and deduce that together to recognize that he had grief, extreme grief over the treatment and the death of his only begotten son, Yahusha, who is Yahuwah. And at the time that Yahusha gave up his rook, I don't know if I've already said that, was at the 9th hour. So they tie together. And so you would have never known that had it not been put together through Christianity. It's impossible because they don't understand, or they don't overstand the Abri teachings. And this is why they are in error. And this is why they will be lost unless they come to the truth. So I allow that this is an interesting message for you, or teaching. And again, research everything that I'm saying. Don't take for granted that what I'm saying is true, but let Scripture interpret Scripture through the context with which it was given, that you may be able to stand firm in the belief of Yahuwah and the things that he's done. Shabbat, shalom, shalom, Miss Parker. Much love and